Well, today didn't go as planned, and my two brothers and his helper were on the way out this morning and had issues with his van and had to have it towed back to Quincy. So I ended up jumping in my truck, going to Quincy, see if I could help out. Then ended up driving to Plymouth to get his other truck in the meantime. And by the time we got back to Quincy, Riley, stay over here. Riley, stay. Riley, sit, stay. And yeah, by the time we got back to Quincy, it was after 1:30. So if we decided to come back out here at that point, we would have been out here at like after 3 o'clock, and we wouldn't have got much done. So that's a bummer. And a bummer he had van issues, but I'm more of a bummer that he has van issues than we didn't get work done. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what I can get done, and maybe they might be aiming for next Saturday or next Monday or something like that. So we'll see what happens. But either way, there's still plenty of work to do. I'm just sorry that I let you guys down on the video. Today's video was supposed to be a milestone, so I'm sorry. But as a byproduct, I did get Riley. I wasn't going to get him till tomorrow because we were going to be busy today. So rather than just head back out here, I headed north and picked him up in New Hampshire. Hi, buddy. Riley, you want to come say hi? You want to say hi to everybody? You want to say hi to everybody? Nope. He just wants to go inside and get his treat. So anyway, I hope you guys had a good day, more productive day than we did. All right, so back at it today finally. And today is Wednesday. So Monday, as you know, was a loss. Yesterday was doing all responsible life duties. So finally getting back at it today. Monday's workload not happening. I kind of had things lined up where we were going to get the back roof done, and then I was going to continue on with other framing and sheathing and stuff in the back wall. So my initial plan is kind of out the window at the moment. So I'm going to shift over here. This is something I haven't dealt with yet that's kind of a pain in the butt. Is right here, this was a dividing wall in the living room, but it wasn't a whole wall. It just had like a little stub wall here and a stub wall over here, and then like an arch doorway and whatnot. So that was a pretty terrible setup in itself because it was all load bearing on the floor on one floor joist. It didn't even have a double floor joist down there. So that's pretty terrible in itself, because if you look, this part of the roof goes up here and down that way. So a handful of these roof rafters, I think 6 of them, die into that top plate that was on that wall. So naturally that one's rotted from all the damage the house had. And that whole section of the floor was caving in and everything. So I'm going to put 2 LVLs in there, and then I'm going to build a massive header over this door and more jack plates and all that stuff in here. And then this wall here, I'll have to block out this whole corner of this wall wherever this one lands and block it out to that huge beam in the basement. And then over here in the bottom where this carries down through, I'll make sure that's carried down to the foundation also. So these carry all the way down to just a 2x6, which that's not very strong. So I got 2x12 LVLs, and I'm going to double them up. So what I'm going to do is, rather than just put it out here at the end, I'm going to cut these back till they're at 12 inches of height, and then I'll put those 2 LVLs in so they can fit. I can't just put them in out here because the way the roof comes down, it's just not ideal. So I'm going to work on that, and I got to figure out jacking and supporting and this whole area, and then marking it and getting it cut right the first time and all that fun stuff. So I'll fumble through and get this, and let's see how the day goes. And, oh, and the guy showed up with his nephew. Nephew seems like a good guy. And they're actually taking a bunch more of that wood outside. So that's good that some of that's going on. I don't know if you'll be able to see. You can see him out there a little bit. There we go. More progress being made. I ended up sending him a message kind of lighting a fire under his butt, just saying it all had to be out here by Friday. And that message got a reply, and he's here now, and seems like they're going to hustle through it. So I told them, seeing they're here today with a bunch making progress, they can have past Friday. But let's see what happens. So that was way more tedious than I thought it was going to be. So came up with a couple of different ideas and ended up using those ideas and then calibrated guyballing it. So one of the ideas was, I have a bunch of these, and this one, it's all bowed and it's aluminum. It's probably not terribly accurate. So what I did was I cut this peak here that you're seeing, I cut this chunk off of it. Sorry about that, that was loud. But I cut this much of it off, and this measurement from this corner down here up to that peak is the height of the LVL boards that I got to put in. So I cut that in a way, so because I don't want to cut these back and have there not be enough room. If there's too much room, that's okay, because there'll just be a little gap around them. It'll be totally fine. But if I cut them all, if I line them all up and cut them, and they're not, it's too short, then trying to cut them all back when you're just trying to shave a sliver of them off would be a huge pain in the butt. So I use this as basically like a gauge. So I put this up so it was against the bottom of the ceiling joist, and then I was able to just slide it over until it touched the roof panel up there. And then that tells me that there's enough height there for that LVL. So I made a few marks with that, and nothing's level square. The height of this one and this one is a different height than this one and that one. So I set a few, I marked a few so I knew where they were, and then I put the laser level over on the ground over here and shot that up and lined those up, and the thing was going terribly skewed. So then at that point I adjusted it so it looks like it's going straight across the room, with all the marks being to the right side. So any cuts I make will be where they're too long rather than too short, which is what I want. So that's resolved now. So now I got to figure out blocking, jacking, propping, then I can cut, then I can remove all this cobbled together mess up here, and then I can start cutting the LVLs and starting to get those fit. Still going to be a long day. Well, that was a pain in the butt by myself, but it's up there. It's not jacked yet. It's wedged in place. This was bowing harder than I thought it was, so I wasn't able to stand it up in. I left probably about 3/8 of an inch lower on each side because these are just kind of there to keep it in place, those blocks that I put under it. But couldn't flip it up, so had to pry and beat and put a block behind it so it didn't totally skip out, and got that up. So that's good. That's up in there and standing nice and straight. And put blocks in along the sides of these. So as I jack this, that'll actually come down and rest on this beam that's resting on this beam, because I got to cut them right there, so they're all going to separate. So now there's blocking on all of them. So once I cut them, they'll drop down and just line up where they need to be. And yeah, and then like I said, that's my guide for cutting right across the edge of them. And then I can get all this taken out, all this taken out, and start figuring out the LVL. But first, it's time to feed Riley, and very late lunch, so I'm gonna have a late lunch, and I'll come out and I'll set up some blocking on the floor and get this actually jacked so the pressure's off of everything. And then probably start cutting tonight. Wish me luck. I know that video was probably pretty hard to follow, the time lapse. I just couldn't get a good angle of everything I was doing because I was cutting off sections of the beam and then cutting off all the tails and another section and then a couple more tails to get it all down in one piece where I didn't have a second hand. But it's all out now. Ain't no turning back now. Yeah, so that piece of plywood was full size hanging down here just out in the middle of nowhere. So cut that back out of the way. So now that LVL will go on that wall all the way across. And then once I get to here, I got to cut a little angle on the LVL. And then it's going to go in on top of this wall. Then I'll have to build a substantial header and jack studs and all that stuff. But we're getting there. That was the big hard part. That was tedious, and we got just random chunks all over the place. And yeah, it was raining down on me. Like, good thing I washed the sweatshirt yesterday. It's covered now. But progress is progress. Let's keep it moving. that's going to be it for today because I need to go get joist hangers and some ledger locks and some 8-foot 2x6s because I got to triple up that stud to carry the load down, and then I got to build a different header over here. And I set up both LVLs, I put them up there, and everything lined up real nice, as you can see. And drop right in, and even where it's jacked, it's just about level. It's just a crumb high, which is good because I can get the the joist hangers in and then let it down onto the joist hangers. So Home Depot run, and then I got to decide on this door if I'm going to move it over and put a thinner door in so I can carry that straight down, or if I'm going to do a heavy LVL there, or a heavy header, whatever it might need to be. I'll have to call my brother and pick his brain and see what I need to carry that load down. And I should have all the 2x4s for that. I just need something for the header. So I gotta make a couple of calls, make a list, and run to Home Depot either tonight or in the morning. And I gotta take Riley out for a walk. He's been very patient today. But this is it might not seem like much, but this is like, whew. This is a big one. This was one that I was dreading doing just because it was going to be so involved and tedious. So I'm glad the complicated part's all done. All the figuring up there and all that stuff. This is going to work out perfect because that rough hole I cut is a little bit off center. So I'll be able to just stud that over and move the door over just a little bit. And that'll be perfect. And yeah, so this will all work out pretty well. Hope you guys had a good day. Hope your week's going well. And we'll check in tomorrow. Hopefully that will be fully suspended. I know you all thought I was done jacking things, but we're still jacking stuff. So this is this is probably the last big jacking I need to do. And then the far side of the basement staircase opening, I just got to jack that a little bit. Oh, that's what else I got to get. I got to get some 2x3s for that wall. So I just got to jack that, replace that bottom plate on that wall, and then pretty much just I got to replace the top plate on this wall. So I just got to jack this real quick, which is really no load on it. So that's going to be easy peasy. All right, I'm going to go get to Riley, Home Depot run and all that jazz. Check in tomorrow.